A terrifying crash landing for a Delta flight in Toronto. The plane skidding on that runway. There were flames and then flipping. Passengers left hanging upside down inside of that cabin. Now, incredibly, all 80 on board survived. But for those on the aircraft, a legal battle could be just beginning. Delta Airlines now offering $30,000 apiece to every passenger. But lawsuits are already filed, showing that's not nearly enough for some of those on board. So far, 2 passengers are suing. A man from Texas claiming he was drenched with jet fuel during the disastrous landing, and a woman from Minnesota saying she's been left with extreme bodily and mental injuries. To get to the bottom of all this, we're joined by aviation attorney Erin Applebaum. Erin, I know there are so many questions about this. Thank you for taking the time tonight.
Thanks for having me on.
I first want to get your initial reaction to Delta offering $30,000 to the passengers. Were you surprised at this amount given the magnitude of this crash? Is that enough?
Not at all. This is a customary thing that commercial airlines do every time there is a major incident. They offer a goodwill gesture to their passengers. But this amount is not enough, not nearly enough. And passengers who are injured are deserving more, and they will be entitled to get more.
Now, we've been seeing some of the NewsNation viewer comments on this, some people calling it insulting. Do you agree with that?
I don't agree that the goodwill offer is insulting. I think it is customary and in line with what airlines typically offer after events like this. What I think is insulting is the way that Delta has treated their passengers after this has happened. My law firm is representing several people from the flight, and from what I have heard, the response from the airline has been nothing more than abysmal. These passengers expected to get to Toronto safely. Their pilots did not land the plane safely. It was not their fault that they're going to be traumatized now, and Delta needs to compensate them for that.
Yeah, in what way has Delta not been responding to them adequately? Tell me more.
From what I have heard, the passengers did not hear from Delta at all after this incident. These airlines train response teams that are supposed to respond to passengers right after a crash happens. They're supposed to treat them with care and concern. These passengers heard nothing. The first time they were contacted was an email offering them the $30,000 goodwill payment.
Wow.
It's not enough. They feel angry and they feel like they want to be made whole again.
Yeah, does accepting that money in any way take away a passenger's ability to sue for further damages down the line?
Typically, it does not, and Delta is saying here that it will not. For our clients that we're representing from the plane, we are ensuring that Delta will not count that against their future legal rights. We're sending letters to make sure that their rights are being defended in the event that they do accept that money. But I have advised them that it's okay to take it. But like we said earlier, that amount is not enough, and they deserve more for what they've been through.
Two more questions on this offer. Is it an exploding offer? Do they need to take it in a certain time frame? And also, will they have to pay taxes on it?
Delta has told them that if they do not accept it within, I believe it's 6 weeks, then a check will be mailed to them. So they will be getting this money no matter what, whether or not they accept it actively or not. It will be mailed to them eventually. It will not be taxable in the United States. I can't speak to Canadian law, but in the U.S., personal injury settlements are not taxable.
You know, we're seeing at least 2 lawsuits already claiming the flight crew failed to observe the most fundamental procedures for a landing approach. I know you represent passengers here. What are they entitled to in your belief?
This case is unusual because it's governed by an international treaty called the Montreal Convention. It's not the same as if these passengers were injured on a flight from Minneapolis to LA. So the international law makes the case a little bit different. And when you file your complaint, when you file your lawsuit under the Montreal Convention, you have to plead your damages. And in my opinion, it's way too early to be filing lawsuits in this case. We barely know what happened, let alone what our passengers' injuries are. I have been telling our clients that we need to hold back, wait and see. I want to see the findings of the investigative reports. I want them to go to the doctor and get to know the extent of their injuries before we can figure out exactly what they're entitled to. So while I think many of these passengers will have the ability and the option to file a lawsuit in the future if they can't settle prior to filing suit, I think we're very premature right now to file suit.
Is there a statute of limitations on filing a suit?
Yes, the Montreal Convention imposes a 2-year statute of limitations to file.
And how many clients so far are you representing who are on this flight?
We have around a dozen, and I expect that we'll probably get more.
And what are you hearing from them? I mean, we hear a woman from Minnesota saying she's been left with extreme bodily and mental injuries. People on that flight described just hanging like bats afterwards as they were waiting for people to come rescue them. What was this experience like for these clients?
It's a crazy situation. And I think the fact that the people here are not that more people are not critically injured, it's not really indicative of how serious the crash was. Every single person on that plane is going to be psychologically traumatized. This is the opposite of the miracle on the Hudson. You remember when the airplane failed because birds flew into the engines, and then Captain Sully heroically landed the plane and rescued all the passengers on board. And in that case, the passengers were grateful to the airline and happy that they were alive. This is the opposite of that. This plane was a perfectly good aircraft that was crashed by these pilots. And by the grace of God and the design of the aircraft, everybody walked off alive. And people are angry about it.